Hello there. Good morning. Uh, good morning to most of you, depending on when you watch this and what part of the world you're in. It's been a while. I should have done this a little while ago, but if you've been keeping track of things happening on this channel, um, if I haven't produced the material, I haven't really been on the ball with the solo stuff. The stuff that happens Fridays and Tuesdays and stuff, that's not my baby. That's just something that I'm running a parallel stream to. Um, Februaries are always really kind of bad for me. Miserable. Mental health is what I'm referring to. Uh, every year I get a year older, and at the end of every February, I get reminded of the rut that I'm in. Um, and just recently, I don't know how many weeks it's been now. I was informed of another person that I care about that is no longer with us. So I'm in something of a funk, and getting in front of the camera and controlling things and being able to focus is not at the top of my abilities. Um, yeah, seasonal affective disorder, is that what it's called? SAD. Uh, it just seems like it. Well, it doesn't seem like it. Literally, always happens every February. But anywho, a couple of 19 days late for the January edition. Depending on how quickly this moves, judging by how I'm moving right now, it won't be quickly at all. I might do the films that I saw in February, but one step at a time. If you're familiar with these, I discuss and read my reviews, my letterboxd reviews for movies that I've seen for the first time, whether or not they're new releases or just something I finally caught up with for the first time. Just letting you know my first time watches, and we're gonna start here with the month of January 2026. I can't believe it's already February 19th, 2026. It's another statement of just how sloppy I am at this moment. Um, so this should work this way. Yeah. Wicked for Good. I realize that wasn't released in January, but again, my first time watch happened in January. I'm trying to think if this works now. Yeah, 3 stars. I thought it it was okay. It's a movie that you really desperately need to see the first part for it to make sense. And I would even say that you really you need to watch The Wizard of Oz too. Like Dorothy, I'm kind of tired of this television series mentality with film, where they have this thing where they just expect you to know other things that are happening, and like Dorothy in Wicked for Good should be of no importance, especially with some of the highlights that she gets. It doesn't make sense for her to have her own shots. It's kind of like this fan film lore thing where it's like, oh, of course we've got to focus on Dorothy because I'm not sure I'm a big fan of any of that. Can I do? Oh, now I'm over here. Dual cameras. Uh, yeah. So Wicked for Good. It's been a rather long time since I've seen the original film, but even with that faded memory, this ends up feeling like some Elseworlds type stuff, to where anything regarding Dorothy and her journey really feels pointless and irrelevant to this story. If you have no knowledge of that first film, by that first film, I'm referring to The Wizard of Oz. Oh, even it, sans Dorothy, you're going to want to watch Wicked, the first Wicked, for this to be at all relevant. If you do have knowledge of that first movie, too much of this feels like a Star Warsification of making characters all related or knowing each other somehow for the sake, I don't know what. This is not a movie that flows on its own rather well and really needs you to do a bit of homework for this piece to feel complete. And by that, I'm talking about like you really need to be familiar with the other stuff. It's not a movie that you can watch and like have an idea of what's going on. It won't work. It doesn't have the same punch if you only watch this film, especially if you only watch this film without knowing Wizard of Oz. Let me check back here for a second. Hey, why are you in the way? That should be, sorry. There it is. I watched a musical. Yeah, I watch things I don't like, Gray. Around 100 times a year, I'll watch things just for the sake of stuff like this. It's not my preference. I don't own this film. It's not something that I'll, seek out and be like, you know what? It's a nice rainy day. Let me throw on Grease Lightning. Just not a thing I'll do. But I'll watch them for the sake of, I don't know, being a pop culture. I can't even take myself seriously. I'll watch them. If some work with me, that's kind of impressive. There are musicals that I've enjoyed. Moulin Rouge is something that is probably the movie that I would go to. And sticking with Baz Luhrmann, his version of Romeo and Juliet is something that I don't mind watching, but for some reason Moulin Rouge is the best musical that I can think of off the top of my head. Fourth drawer down. Sipo, winter is a difficult time for me. Sad is a thing for me. Also, it's dark, damp time of the year. You're not alone, Charles. God bless. Oh, I'm fully. I screwed up by saying seasonal affective disorder. I was making some sort of reference that I know it's going to happen every February because there's this traumatic event. It starts with my birthday, and then the rest of February, just kind of thinking about what's happening in my life and why haven't I learned to put the pieces together. And then someone else, it seems like some other older brother, father type figure dies at least once a year now for me. And I'm just dwelling, and it's bad. I need to be back on medication. I'm almost certain of that I should be back on medication right now. So saying some musicals you can watch, you can't. Excuse me, I butchered that joke. Gray says, so saying some musicals you can watch. Yes. Oh, see, I was going to read that like can't now. ShopRite's got the can. What am I thinking of? I know the commercial jingle for ShopRite, but not the source material for that. All right. Anywho, yeah, Wicked for Good, 3 stars. I actually liked the first part more. Not number 3. It is a time of month that I watched that is January 3rd. Excuse me. Let's go back here so that we can get my side angle. I've got the Emily cam on me. Emily cam here on just me again. All right, so Dreams, 2.5 stars for me. Nothing tremendously noteworthy unless you've always wanted some sort of unfaithful 2002 film starring Diane Lane. 50 Shades of Grey and a modern American immigration commentary all combined in the same movie. I actually find this movie a bit more on the nose rather than this year's scapegoat of One Battle After Another. See, that's not this year's scapegoat anymore. If I'm watching this and talking about it in January, One Battle After Another is last year's scapegoat. Jessica Chastain plays a well-off woman who messes around with someone who isn't from this country. I believe he's Mexican. I'm almost positive he's Mexican. He's a professional dancer, and he's got like his ability to get a special visa or green card or something is dependent on his ability to dance and get performances and be proficient, a good draw. But this is just he's her secret, and every now and again they just meet up and fuck. And when she gets tired of him, or when things aren't going well, she kind of restricts his ability to enter her country. And yeah, it's a bit on the nose. There's things that people talk about. I won't use the W word, but there are things that get brought up, rhyme with broke, that I think if you were to accuse something of being that, it could be this movie more than other things. I'm not saying it is, but the subtext isn't very sub at all. It's very, very obligatory text. But what are we gonna do? Rich people hiding their problems. I don't know if you've checked the news at all recently, but well, the news, if you're an American, arrests are happening in the UK. Not so much in the US for rich people. It's I don't watch smutty movies for the same thing that I would have at age 15. Unfaithful was hot and heavy. Basic Instinct was hot and heavy. This has moments where if you want to watch two actors, with no Foley work, just some heavy breathing and hearing of mouth noises and just kind of grinding upon each other. Those scenes are pretty intense, but like I said earlier, I'm like mentally I'm empty as far as emotion is concerned. So it's just like watching it. I'm like, all right, yeah, I get it. They're happy to see one another. Can we get some more things happening in this movie that aren't just smutty kissing on the stairs? If anything, if I could talk to my 15-year-old self, I would be very disappointed in myself. Well, one way or another, I guess. I was going to say, me, the 15-year-old talking to me, the elder, but maybe it goes both ways. It's fine. You could do better. Depending on what you're going to this movie for, I could probably recommend you something else to watch in its place. Unless, of course, you're a fan of Miss Chastain's physique and or Mr. Excuse me, they're both very in fantastic shape. Let me not see. I'm looking there now. I'm supposed to be looking at you. This is a problem with Emily Kim. This story isn't engaging enough. Is the last thing I'll say about it. Okay, and it seems like I took a break there for 9 days, and ended up seeing Primate, which was one of the darlings, or at least as far as Cody was concerned, it was one of the darlings of Fantastic Fest. 3.5 stars for me. It's shocking that it's a January film. And my review is as follows. Man, Paramount should capitalize on their own properties and have Ben get buried at the old Micmac burial grounds. He doesn't look very well. The gore and FX are shockingly great, and Johnny from Dexter New Blood holds her own as the lead here. That's right. The daughter from Dexter New Blood is, I think, the lead in this film. Kind of wild how this movie feels derivative in many ways, but certain tweaks have it feeling interesting enough to be the best January horror release in years. And I think there's another horror. Yes, there is. There's another horror film that I saw in January that was like, yeah, hold my beer. Primate's wild. It's not even something where exclusively you're going to go to it just for the gore. It's would you count it as a creature feature because things have gone awry with a non-human? That counts as a creature feature, right? It's a good one of those, even if it isn't. It's, you know, what was the last time we had, like, a fucked up pet? It's something certainly recent, more recent than Cujo, but along the same lines, but way more dark and believable. Like, if you watch Cujo, you're like, you just hide out in the car, and shut that kid up for the love of everything holy. This is a little more engaging and entertaining. It's a lot more engaging and entertaining, and it's not that unbelievable. There's one thing that uh, that Ben, the primate himself, does not do, and I guess it's believable. I have to admit, as much as I was tempted to, I meant to Google to see if um, apes, chimpanzees, uh, if they can swim, because that was enough to get me to believe whatever their lore was. Um, Gray says decent creature feature. All right, if you're calling it a creature feature, I'm endorsing that. All opposed, say aye. All right, so Primate, and then the next day was the Housemaid, and ooh, 3.5 stars. Speaking of smutty, um, is there Wendigo involved? No, I'm not talking about that version of Pet Cemetery. No, no. Um, yeah. So the Housemaid, I genuinely 3.5 stars for me. I genuinely forgot this was directed by Paul Feig when I started to watch this, and somewhere in the middle, I had internal thoughts along the lines of a simple favor with the tone of things. I can't exactly put it to specifics, but I just felt it. This movie feels like if you were to go take the Korean film The Housemaid, duh, and Gone Girl, and throw them in a blender. It teeters on laughably bad and shockingly solid. If there's anything I could drop that D in there, honey, I could say about this movie, it's that Amanda Seyfried actually carries this film with her performance. And if there's anything that's made the troublesome moments tolerable, it was her acting. Um, yeah, listen, it happens every 5 to 10 years or so, and Sydney Sweeney is definitely that person. But sex appeal is enough to get people booked and cast into films. But as far as acting prowess is concerned, she's not really doing anything that I would say is worth the price of admission. And I'm sure most people, unfortunately so, as far as acting prowess is concerned, I'm sure people aren't going to see a Sydney Sweeney film, you know, looking for a future Oscar winner there. But it happens every now and again, and it's wild because Robert Pattinson was kind of that version, what, 10, 15 years ago, and he's kind of come into his own. Robert Pattinson is someone that, uh, since what, Good Time in 2017, he's like knocked out some solid performances. I've been kind of rooting for that with Sydney Sweeney. Um, Americana was something that I was like hoping that there was a bit more to her ability there, but she does a cartoonish version of a stammer, a stutter, and as someone who has both, it was a bit unfortunate. I wasn't offended or anything, but I don't know. There's not real much masking by Sydney Sweeney. Like, if she's in a movie, you're going to know that it's her. She's not really doing well with accents. She's still got that vocal fry, and I don't know. I don't know if this movie's at all connected to the Korean one. I still need to watch the original, the 1960 Korean version. But the 2010 version of The Housemaid is stronger, in my opinion. I don't know what Paul Feig is doing, where he's constantly having like these two female leads and having this dark humor thing happening. It's odd. Um, I don't know what his filmmaking choices are trying to tell everyone, but um, I expected this to go in a different direction, and I was kind of disappointed when the film went in a different direction than that. But um, there's eye candy, depending on what your sexual preference is. There's plenty of things to look at. Next, oh, January 12th, I watched Is This Thing On, which is directed by Bradley Cooper. Let me get a drink for this one. There. I'm replenished. This film is a performer's movie rather than a storyteller's movie. It is characters chewing on different emotional hurdles they have, but visually there's not much going on to influence your emotions. It's a satisfactory drama about about a couple on the edge of divorce and trying to traverse separation. Man, I typed this to type it, not read it or say it, that's for sure. But in no way is there an accurate representation of stand up comedy. Oddly enough, Joker had more realistic scenes in it than this did. Unfortunately for me, I'm just holding so much importance on the stand up aspect, but this film is so disconnected from what emotions a person can go through while discovering comedy. Yeah, um, and again, Bradley Cooper's actually kind of good as the tertiary character in this. Um, I don't. There's a couple of things that kind of get me separated here. Just want to remind you that Laura Dern is like the love interest in this. Laura Dern was the female lead in Jurassic Park, which came out in 1993. However you want to receive that information, you go ahead and receive that. There's just a bunch of things that don't connect with what my expectations were. So this guy, it goes to an open mic show and doesn't want to pay the cover charge, so he signs up to do stand up. Like he signed up to do an open mic show because he didn't want to pay the cover charge, and then um he sucks, like he tanks, but the next time he goes to do it again, like he does the same thing a second time, and then he signs up again, and he's not really great. Um, well, the film doesn't fool you into thinking that like he's great, he's got it figured out, but there's no real connection there. There's not something about the experience that he goes through that makes you believe that like this is his thing now. Like, you know what? I'm in a broken place here. Things aren't working out for me, but at least I have comedy. Because there is something you can capitalize on there. There's something you could focus on and really highlight what making a room of people laugh, what that does to you, especially if you're feeling shitty, if you're feeling down, and you don't have much confidence in yourself, and you don't have confidence in yourself, but a room enjoys your stuff. It does something. I don't know how you would visualize that emotion, but that doesn't happen in this movie. He just kind of continues doing it, but he's still kind of rough, haggard about his set and quality. The unbelievable aspect about this is um, like everyone around, the other comedians at the club, the people that are running the club, are like helping him to an unbelievable level. especially considering that it's at the cellar, and there's from personal experience, there are a little bit of I don't know. I don't want to call it gatekeeping. I don't know if I have the right word, but there's a table that only comedians sit at, and not all comedians sit at that table. Um, there's some sort of like hierarchy thing here, and this movie, I think, because it takes place at the cellar, it kind of like breaks my immersion because a crappy open micer getting calls from a club owner, and a spot opens up and they're counting on him. I don't know. In New York City, I don't know of any comedy spot where you can't fill that spot with 50 comedians within 10 minutes. Let alone a guy who's an open micer and not really doing very well. It's not really a movie about comedy, though. It's really a movie about this couple that's getting divorced. Um, I, I don't know. I think I expected it to be a comedy movie and kind of got flustered. Um, Grace, is that being said? Oh wait, Grace said that being said, one scene really needed to be removed from the flick. Are you talking about breakfast time? I'm looking here now again. Are you talking about breakfast time? Um, you know, they're theater kids, and whenever they're making breakfast, they just have a routine that they do. Um, 3 stars for me. Fourth drawer down says, I would still recommend Punchline with Tom Hanks from 1988 if this is what you're after. I can't tell if you're kidding or not, fourth drawer down, because um no. No, Punchline is not a realistic interpretation of comedians at a club, let alone comedians at a New York club or an LA club. You don't have your own lockers at a club. A comedy club would go bankrupt if they put the same 5 or 6 comedians on every night. But it was what it was. In the 80s, stand-up comedy was huge. It's all we had back then. I don't know what film I would point to for like the most authentic experience for stand-up comedy. Maybe, m- maybe Joker, as insane as that is, and it's not really something that you know what the fuck, the movie that Joker rips off, Scorsese's King of Comedy is kind of close, but there's not that stand-up comedy club atmosphere. De Niro was in a film called The Comedian that was awful. I don't know why it's hard. There's a lot of comedians that write for films, a lot of comedians that act and direct and things. I'm surprised Louis C.K. hasn't capitalized on that because he's done everything from all over the place. Yeah, clothes need not be necessary. Um, I'm surprised he hasn't done some sort of like authentic experience for stand-up comedy. I guess I'll have to do it. Funny people, very good, Sean. That's a good one. That's probably it. Previous comment, sir. Previous comment. Manny, hey Charles, how are you? Good. How are you? Previous comment. The second greatest musical of 2024. I watched half of Punchline and got bored on Pluto TV. You don't need Pluto TV to be bored of it. Do they do commercials on Pluto? The Doc Comedian was pretty good. Is that with Seinfeld? That's a pretty good documentary. I was performing in New York City at around those times. Warning Adams ended up turning into nothing. That's kind of funny. But yeah, I didn't crisscross during the filming of the Comedian. but I was certainly doing gigs at definitely Gotham at that time. That was those are shows that Jessica Curson was producing. Small world. Is it really? It's not. Next. Oh man. Yay, more authentic experiences. Stay still. 2.5 stars is what I gave to Song Sung Blue because he needed the money. All right, over here again. I'm gonna try to remember to look here. 2.5 stars. I don't know how a biopic can be both formulaic and cynical while failing to earn any of the emotions they're going for, but alas. There's so much of this movie that made me feel like there was some sort of parody angle to things, and I found it tonally broken, if unserious. This movie just plays the greatest hits of drama fare, but never earns anything they're trying for. As You Were. I'm an asshole. As You Were, thank God I remember this. As You Were is Hugh Jackman's character when he'd answer the phone or enter a room, he would say, As You Were. Okay. I mean, I guess it has charm. I remembered that. It's like a cheesy drama about a bunch of cover band performers. Shout out to Michael Imperioli for being a Buddy Holly cover guy. Really weird seeing him in something like this, and I don't know. I hope this wasn't his only shot to be in like mainstream stuff. Not like Sopranos wasn't mainstream or anything, but it's really funky. I thought it was going to be like some sort of underdog thing with a guy who does Neil Diamond covers. It sort of is, but then they're trying to do the typical biopic thing where some things happen that are drama and trauma. But the way they shot this one event in particular is like comedy. It's framed all weird, where you have this wide shot, and it's not really presented well. There's a thing where someone goes to the front of their house and they're doing a thing, and you can see the impending doom coming. It's not really that surprising. I don't know what that shot is supposed to be because it just doesn't work. And other than that, there are times where things are just like brought up for the sake of the story needs that to happen. Like they're at a hospital and Hugh Jackman's character pulls one of his children aside and they just duck off into a different hospital room and start handling the jumper cable things for the heart. And they know what they're doing. And yeah, that was strange. Like our first experience with that is Hugh Jackman knows how to handle the crash cart thing. And it just, the tone was always off and backwards to me. I felt like it was trying to be a drama, but it was also trying to be a little silly at times too. And I didn't have the right emotions at any point during that movie. For like the first 20 minutes or so, I thought, oh, this is like a satire. I thought it was like a like a Ricky Bobby or Bobby Cox or Walk Hard. But it isn't. And I don't know why it's getting award buzz. I guess the performances are okay, but I just could not get into it like at all. Did they ever stop to ask why though? Watch Saving Silverman for a better movie about a Neil Diamond tribute. I agree. And yeah, I don't dispute that claim at all. And like that kind of sucks, to be honest. Next, uh-oh, a little favorable here on the 4 stars for The Rip. I cannot properly process. Man, I don't. You can tell I don't read this stuff aloud when I type it on Letterbox because I would never type properly process for me to read. I cannot properly process how Affleck is in 2 movies that I would put in the same discussion as Heat. But here we are. After directing The Town, we get Good Will Hunting meets Training Day meets Heat. And I'm thankful it exists. Crying shame that this is now a January straight to Netflix movie, but I would call this more than worthy of your weekend night action heist thriller night TV. There's a few events that feel telegraphed, a tad stutter steppish in delivery, but rather solid time when you consider the rather charismatic cast. Yeah, this is a movie that I feel like I'm there and rooting for the cast, the crew. Like I already have some sort of investment in things without, the movie earning any of that. So I don't know if you're not a fan of Affleck and Damon together. You're starting off on a much lower point than I did, but I wouldn't say I'd rather watch The Rip than Heat, but I'd rather watch The Rip than what the hell is that? There's 2 of them now, Den of Thieves and Den of Thieves Pantera. 2 cameras, Charles production on point. Well, I'm using the uh, when the missus is here, she has her own camera and it's actually pointing at me right now. So can't have enough cameras on my face is what I'll say. Just wait until you see Crime 101 if you want to see movies compared to Heat, that is. Was that a 26 release? 4 star for Netflix movie. CPM must be happy. Quite the contrary. Quite the opposite, actually. If in doubt, just watch The Town again because it's great. I see no reason to contest that statement. I might watch that movie once every 2 years just because. Okay. Here we go. Wow, 4 really? Huh. Am I stuck? I'm stuck. What I saw on the 23rd was 28 years later, Bone Temple Pilots. And that is The Rip. That is not right. Oh, man. Somehow feels like 4 stars. Somehow feels like a movie that is better if you have it considered to be a literal second half of 28 years later, whereas 28 years later feels like it could be considered a full story on its own. This is not to take anything away from the movie, but I do feel like you'd need to see that first film for this to feel complete, or as complete as one could expect, all things considered. I really love the constant theme. Wow, come on. Jesus. Man, I had a lot to say about this one, huh? I really love the constant theme of both pop culture and our respective upbringings affecting our belief system and our grasp on trauma. Something tells me that the next installment will be this quote unquote just/good version of our upbringing, molding what type of people we are, or a version of being the person your father trained you to be, not the person TV/movies prepared you for. And not the person you wanted the world to think you are. But I can't really judge the potential of a future now, can I? Need a comment there, buddy. I'm quite impressed with both the direction and cinematography brought on by DaCosta, and really am looking forward to future work. Yeah, the cinematography was perhaps the best i- of any 28 later movie. Bone Temple Pilots was probably the best cinematography. The movie is great on its own, but in a double bill with the first 28 years later, it makes the experience of both quite a bit stronger. Yeah, I think I think if you only watch 28 years later Bone Temple, there's something missing. Um like the the morphine guy and everything in the train. Um it You need to see that in the first 28 years later for that character to feel as effective as this movie would have you interpret them as. I don't think Jimmy's gang is as important watching the first part around, but I can't help but think that people were checking spoilers and leaks and things because a lot of Americans knew what this gang was going to be last year in the summer, and it seems a bit easier to understand that now. It's a great movie. Don't get me wrong. Judging it on its own, I give it a 4 out of 5. If you do a double bill, if you watch 28 Years Later and 28 Years Later, Bone Temple, 4.5. Like it's a really really solid double bill. Um, I have zombie fatigue the same way CP has superhero fatigue. Yeah, and I have something I'm working on. It should have been out by now. I have something I'm working on that has something to say about zombie movies that it's putting me through a bit of fatigue myself. Best tripping scene in any zombie flick, hands down. I'll agree with that. Bone Temple, take out the Jimmy Savile wannabes. I would like it much better focused solely on Ralph. After cut, the Jimmy stuff would be much better. Bone Temple Grand Inn. 28 years later, Bone Thugs and Harmony. Yep. Really enjoyed the Bone Temple. Just unfortunate it didn't reflect well in box office receipts because you'd love to see great movies do well. I don't I don't know what the fuck they were expecting, but to release it in January, it's weird that we had like nothing worthwhile in October as far as horror is concerned, but we had two films in January that were really kind of solid. If you had Primate in October, granted it only premiered I think in September, but Primate could have been a solid October movie, and 28 years later, Bone Temple, man, that would be huge for October. But I think people were kind of torn because of the mixed response on 28 years later. But I I don't know if I don't know if it would do much better. I think it's a reflection. People don't like going to the movies in January. So what would you have expected from that movie? I prefer 28 years later and wasn't a fan of that either. I'm checked on this franchise, checked out. See Iron Lung. Sorry if you have content on it. Just checking in after a while. No, I haven't. Iron Lung was one of the coolest theater experiences for me. I don't know if it's available near me. Halloween rarely even gets theatrical releases in October. I'm not sure if they even factor that in. Well, recently, in the last 5 to 10 years, well, eh, within the last 10 years, especially Blumhouse, they pump out stuff in October, and it seems like every October there's like three, if not four, major horror releases in October. Some people don't do it. That's right. Halloween prior to 2018, they were like August movies, but between 2018 kills and ends, they were September, October movies. Whistle isn't horrible either. Better than a haunted swimming pool. Oh, that also, yeah, another January release. Oh, come on, why are you broken? All right, it doesn't want to do this. Next, a nice 2-star film called Greenland 2: Migration. Didn't know we needed a sequel to that movie, because if you watch the first one, you're like, yeah, okay. But alas, they had a sequel and they put it out really quickly. Movie looks good, but the substance of it just feels empty. The movie somehow is both unbelievable and so absurd that you have no true investment in any conflict within the journey of this film. Take the Warriors. Now replace the boroughs of Manhattan and change it to Europe during the apocalypse. That is essentially what this globetrotter feels like. But danger is never really considered for our leads. Thank God they're not in any of the tertiary characters, huh? Yeah, so 2 stars for me, Greenland 2: Migration. Unnecessary movie. But from what I understand, they're pumping out a bunch of these movies because it does well internationally, I think. It's just absurd and silly. Since the apocalyptic effects of the first one, the bunker people of Greenland have to kind of run around and seek out other survivors and all this other shit. And there's these global storms that make everything harder for them. But man, our main characters are so lucky to be in such dangerous spots in a near continuous basis, but always are lucky enough to just witness people around them dying. At no point in this movie, if you know that the characters that you're going to be with for the while, at no point are you like, oh yeah, they're going to die. No point. You're just, oh, look at that. All the people around that person are dying. Oh, look at that. All the people over there are dying. There's like a literal moment where they're standing on an island and everything around them collapses. It's just too on the nose. And with that, you got to give me stakes. I have to think that someone might perish or at least get hurt and like no, go on without me. There is an element of that, but bigger picture, it doesn't really hit the same way. It's fine. 2 stars. Again, cinematography was quite shocking. I think the cinematography in Greenland 2 is better than 2012. So whatever that means to you. Oh, yay. On the 29th, I saw Anaconda. I gave it 1.5 stars. 1.5 stars. I'm such an idiot. This movie must not have buns, hon, because I don't want this. It's a reference to the my Anaconda don't wanna. Funny that a movie that has themes and heavy discussions of how empty Hollywood is for ideas just does more of the same. You can be meta all you want, but in the era of 21 and 22 Jump Street and the following Baywatch films has long since passed. There's no life, no charm. There's no life, no charm to this movie. If you told me AI made all of it, I may believe you. Sure, it looks like something that could have been made 12 years ago, but it has no true flair to it. my Anaconda. Greenland 2 or 2012? 2012. 2012. Like Greenland 2, if you want to watch a movie and like take the piss out of something, like if you want to do the Jason X treatment, I think we could have fun watching Greenland 2. Like that's how absurd the movie is. I don't know if Emily was watching all of it with me, but there are times where I realize that if she sticks around and is just constantly riffing, it could be one of those MS Mystery Science Theater, MST3K. This is Sparta. I mean, Greenland. I'm so sorry. Confirmed Charles is a bun hunter. My Anaconda don't want none unless you got buns, hon. I think this should be everything for January. Yep, the 30th. I watched Monument Avenue, which stars Denis Leary and is directed by the director of The Ref, brother of man. Come on, man. Why am I doing this? Ted Demme. Ted Demme, brother of Jonathan Demme, who directed quite a few good movies, but most notably Silence of the Lambs. What is even that? All right, sit tight. You'll get even that in a second. Monument Avenue. As much as I wanted to like this film, I'm quite a fan of both. I see I could have just read the name here. I'm quite a fan of both Leary and Demme. This movie just doesn't feel like something with an aim or purpose. You can tell what type of movies were getting made at this point because there's a bunch of that 90s indie film vibe about some of the dialogue and the fly on the wall nature of things. The problem is the movie really has no sense of urgency or stakes. We're never really invested in characters that have shorter screen time than others. I don't hate that this movie exists. I just wanted it to be so much more. Plus, how do you not make a $1,000 bet over a game of street hockey feel cinematic? That's me, the hockey fan. There's $1,000 bet on a game of street hockey that bothered me. This is phase 1 of the Monument Avenue, Boondock Saints, The Departed, The Town, Boston crime film saga. Yeah, there's quite a long scene of cocaine and cocaine-fueled discussions in this movie that they've done it better since then. There's a bunch of movies. I don't know if I've seen everything by Ted Demme at this point. I guess I can take you on the journey with me. Oh. All right, so Blow is not on the screen at the moment. Blow, I have seen. I own that. Life, I haven't seen in forever. The Ref, I will defend that to the death. Beautiful Girls is a movie that I really enjoy. Beautiful Girls is a very similar vibe to Monument Avenue. Beautiful Girls is more like a dramedy. The stakes are far lower. It's just people trying to get with one another. Natalie Portman, really fantastic in Beautiful Girls as the little girl neighbor that, if you were just 5 years older, innocent. It's nothing creepy or anything like that, but there's this nice brick wall between what should be happening and if you were a little older, it's done well. Who's the Man? I don't remember if I've seen that. Monument Avenue, and he directed the Denis Leary comedy specials. Uh, is there even enough here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I can't count the stand-up specials. I would really like to rank Ted Demi, but there's not much to it here. I need to rewatch Life and Who's the Man and Subway Stories. Wait, oh, is it oh yeah, it's a bunch of different direct. Okay, I see. What do you call that when it's a bunch of different things? Um, Ataxia? Am I developing ataxia? A Decade Under the Influence, documentary examining the decade of 1970s as a turning point in American cinema. That's happened again. Like that was just remade on on I want to say Netflix breakdown 1975 or whatever. Nose beers. Yes, nose beers. Yeah, so that's January for me. I would love to talk at length about Ted Demi and his work. I think let me. I'm going to go ahead and close the other camera so I'm not looking at it. Um, I really enjoy his work a lot more than I would rather watch my favorite Ted Demi films rather than Jordan Peele's 3 films. As much as I love Get Out, I'm not choosing any of Jordan Peele's work over The Ref. I don't know if I'm choosing it. I might choose Get Out over Blow. Beautiful Girls is it, it's hard to not overinflate expectations with that movie, but it's I don't know what you would compare it to. The '90s was weird because there was a lot of these. I mean, you have to remember that people like Kevin Smith flourished in the '90s because there was these, you know, that movement of indie film. It's not big and vibrant. It's more, you know, there are these things that are day in the life of certain people and just more reserved and just simple stories about a bunch of friends getting back in town and having issues with their girlfriend or whatever. Um, During that time, and before they got saturated, um, they were interesting. I think in the age of watching movies on cable and like being excited or even renting them. I think I rented Beautiful Girls on VHS when it came out. Um, Movies like that, like Mallrats was a movie that I loved the ability to rent it and watch it, at my leisure and however many times I could with the tape in my possession. There are different expectation parameters with certain movies. Like I wouldn't expect the same level of entertainment from anything Kevin Smith is doing that I would from, like a Mission Impossible movie. Those are experiences where, any Kevin Smith movie, a lot of the Ted Demi stuff, it, it it's a more fuller experience, but it's much more scaled back. Would it be great if Sinners got about 2 Oscars? Why? Because it's nominated for a cajillion of them? I don't understand. Is that like a slight against most of its nominations or what are you what does that mean? Um, while I'll wait for that response, I need to. My brain is. I think it's a taxi that I'm thinking of, where my vocabulary is gone. Like I'm trying to say a word, but my vocabulary is gone. Like I'm seeing an image in my head, but I cannot tell you what the word is for the image that is in my head. And normally I know the name of it. I don't know if this is uh, serious effects of depression or my neurological disorder. Okay, one for each of Michael B. Jordan's characters. That's cute. Up, up, and too slow, too slow. Another filmmaker from the '90s that I felt did like the indie director thing really well is Richard Linklater. Um, a lot of the stuff that he did, even early 2000s, um, the Before trilogy, like there's a 3 movie arc between two people who are just like over the course of I think it's 20 years, just kind of having a date on a train, this happenstance meeting, and they're having a night together. Then like 7 years later, they're like you find out that they're separating. And then 10 years after that, like they're together, and that move one of those movies would not get made by a big studio, and somehow Richard Linklater was able to make 3 of them. Um, but Slacker is the movie that people think of, especially in the '90s, from him. But yeah, I think of the Before trilogy. Dazed and Confused was awesome. 1994. I think I'm giving him a lot of credit for Slacker and the Before trilogy. Uh, but he became something of a hired gun over the course of the next few years until he made School of Rock, which is kind of straightforward, a mainstreamy type movie. The Bad News Bears, the fucking remake, the comedy. Eeh. And then he made Boyhood, and man, that got a lot of credit. Got a lot of credit for. Do you know that took them 12 years to make that movie? Linklater's had so much growth where Smith keeps going back to the well. I don't dispute that. And Linklater's tried a bunch of different things too. Linklater, the aforementioned Bad News Bears remake. Some stuff that Linklater has. Bernie with Christ, what's your name? Bernie with Jack Black, based on a true story, and the story behind Richard Linklater and the real events of the person in that are pretty fucking funny. Bernie is a really interesting movie. It's fascinating. I don't know. It's it's like a dramedy, but it really should be a bit more serious than it is, but it's not. Bernie's a great movie. I still haven't seen A Scanner Darkly. I still haven't seen Suburbia. Newton Boys I have not seen. Up to Speed. Heads I win, tails you lose. Waking Life. Blue Moon. That just came out. I did not see that. Oh, no wonder. Ethan Hawke. Why didn't I should have known that. Everybody wants some. I own it, or I did own it. I don't think I own it anymore. It just never like caught on for me. But you listen to these movies, Hitman, which came out a couple of years ago. I think that was a Netflix movie. There's so much difference in these movies, and Linklater does decent enough work in these. Some stuff feels like he's just doing the work for a paycheck, but Kevin Smith really could do that. It's just strange. Blue Moon has an amazing hawk. Bernie's a good watch. Yeah, it is. I wouldn't know what to, like, what type of mood. Like, if you're just like, oh, let me watch something new, I don't know what, like, when to suggest Bernie to someone. What? Howdy Charles 35 years project hashtag who and co. Did you have a stroke when you were typing? Howdy Charles 35 years project hashtag who co. Scanner Darkly is great. I've heard. I just I can't get around to it. Doc, howdy. I'm trying to think of other 90s filmmakers that have a lot of samey things that probably wouldn't get made. Definitely not in the 80s, and maybe far less so now. What's I just saw a sequel by you. Edward Burns. You might know him as the actor, one of the actors who is in Saving Private Ryan, but he directed The Brothers McMullen. She's the One is the one I keep thinking of by him. The Family McMullen, which came out last year, it was a Christmas movie, which was a distant sequel to Brothers McMullen. She's the One in Brothers McMullen. I'm trying Fitzgerald Family Christmas. Man, he likes making Christmas movies. Oh, is Fitzgerald Family Christmas a sequel? Is that in between the McMullen movies? Shit. Man, he's got some crazy lore. Newlyweds, I have not seen that. But I'm thinking specifically of the Brothers McMullen, and she's the one especially because Jennifer Aniston was kind of a big deal, taking something of an indie film, and there's a Cameron Diaz before having a giant career in that film too. Those types of movies, I hadn't even like been aware of film the way I was, maybe 5-10 years later. But there was a lot of indie stuff that was getting made, and people were getting multiple chances. And I think it has a lot to do with the success of Linklater, the success of Kevin Smith, and things like that. I mean, people forget. I've seen a lot of modern takes on something like Chasing Amy. And for the sake of judging that movie in 1997, it's a very strong, very good movie. Yeah, is it dated by today's standards? Yeah, but I think people don't understand. There are certain progressive movements that need pop culture to make people feel like, oh, this isn't that crazy a deal. And then people like lower their guard a bit. I think some of the things that you're complaining about Chasing Amy not being progressive enough about, because that movie exists, some of those barriers came down, which is ironic. There are a bunch of movies that, I mean, how many times were they putting black actors as the president in movies? And, it seemed silly at the time, but you don't realize how often Hollywood is unironically being woke for the sake of making us be acceptable. Love the Moon. Come on, Charles. It made perfect sense. Oh, yeah. Waiting for the remake of Chasing Amy. You could watch the documentary Chasing Amy, which is interesting. Waking Life was my go-to when on mushrooms as a dumb teenager in the 2000s. Jack Black can turn up his acting chops when he wants to, as opposed to his usual quirky, energetic roles. My comp floors at that time. Oh, so your computer had a stroke. Wait, what? Waking Life? Why is that not here? Waking Life. Ash Wednesday, no looking. Is Waking Life? Oh, you're talking about Linklater. I'm trying to think who were some of the other. Like I feel like I'm blocking at least one name out. Um, you could say Spike Lee, but Spike Lee was something of a celebrity by that point. Spike Lee definitely was uh, indie, but he had some sort of polish to his films. Like by the time Linklater and uh, and Smith were out, we already had Malcolm X and Do the Right Thing, and they were kind of a bigger deal than like a typical indie film. I'm trying to. I feel like I'm blocking out one of the one of the indie guys from the '90s. I feel like '94 was a big year. Would I check 1994 Sundance Festival? Wes Anderson. Trying to think what the hell he had. Oh, was that a Bottle Rocket? Was it that? That might be close. Rushmore was late '90s. Bottle Rocket was '93. Yeah, Rushmore was '98. Tenenbaums was '01. Tenenbaums, Royal Tenenbaums, say it better, was 2001. Yeah, that might be something. Royal Tenenbaum. Yeah, yeah. I've got to let my brain not just think in pictures and give me words. But I think there's a discussion to be had about like that '90s era indie darling filmmaker and what happened with them in the 30 years since, because Wes Anderson is certainly doing just fine. Ooh, um, I just watched a film by PTA, Paul Thomas Anderson, had what Boogie Nights in '97, Hard Eight in '96, Cigarettes and Coffee in '93. I'm unfamiliar with that. The Dirk Diggler Story in 1988, short. Lot of short stuff. I've got to catch up with Paul Thomas Anderson. Paul Thomas Anderson had a pretty impressive 30 years. Uh, Boogie Nights, Magnolia, Punch Drunk Love. That's a really solid bunch in a row there. Licorice Pizza, I really need to. I need to rewatch There Will Be Blood and rewatch Licorice Pizza. Ghost World. That's oh, that same director did Art School Confidential. That Emily did. I started watching that, and Emily did stick around and finish that. Terry Swigoff. Um, Ghost Terry Swigoff did Ghost World, Bad Santa, which is kind of weird when you think about it. Crumb, the aforementioned Art School Confidential, which was 2006, and Budding Prospects was 2017. Should rewatch Ghost World. If you like Ghost World, I would strongly suggest watching American Diner. Wait, not American Diner. What the fuck? Dinner in America. My brain is broken. Ghost World and Amelie were the hipster indie movies of the early 2000s. Yeah, I was touring. I was on the road in the early 2000s, so I was more likely to play video games on the road, and the internet wasn't what it was back then, and 5 days out of the week I was bouncing around roads. Um, we didn't have social media like that, so like I have this mental block for like 2002 through 2009. Uh, that's wrong. 2006 is when I went to film school. So 2000, a 4 year stretch between '02 and '06 that I didn't really have my finger on the pulse of movies and what people were talking about. But so I'm like, I have a blind spot when it comes to uh like indie stuff in the early 2000s. But I think it'd be interesting to have a discussion, a focus on indie directors. Like I know, have it be the '90s. Would how many directors have done something uh, like Gray brought up? Kevin Smith is kind of stuck in going back to the well, and that's unfortunate. Both Art School Confidential and Ghost World are by Daniel Clowes. Ginger Snaps was big back then too. That's the early 2000s. Cigarettes and Coffee by PTA is a short that is the basis for Heart 8. And there's a Jarmusch film called Coffee and Cigarettes that took me way too long to understand that were not the same flick. Well, I'm glad to hear that other people have those experiences because uh, I don't know how many times I'll forget that Paul W.S. Anderson and PTA are not the same people. Paul Thomas Anderson did not direct the Resident Evil movie. But can you imagine if he did? Okay. Thanks for joining me on this this summary of January. Please do me a favor and comment. Let me know what you've seen in the month of January, and click like and all that stuff. I actually have less subscribers today than I did on January 1st, 2026. Bad job. I'm not. I'm on like a mental vacation, but not like a fun one. So just do me a favor and let me know you're there, and just deal with me for a little bit. Just sit tight. I'm going through some things. There'll be things on the channel. Maybe not all of it will be produced and driven by me, but let me know if there's something you want to see, and get that membership number up to 50, because we're below 50, and if we have 50 members on the channel, we'll do an exclusive live stream. And yeah, so interact and make things sexy for me and your well-being, not even my well-being. And why is this not working? Not working. Let's just pretend it's over now. Did you click like? Did you leave a comment yet? I know it's better.